You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Those were the words spoken by Harvey Dent in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight that would then be echoed by Jay-Z on the song So Appalled from Kanye West's 2010 masterpiece, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Over the last 20 years, Kanye has cemented himself as one of the most accomplished and well-known icons in pop culture history due to his legendary music and remarkable advancements in the fashion industry. However, he's been steadily ruining his public image over the last 6 years with multiple controversies such as his slavery was a choice comments in his TMZ interview back in 2018, his support of the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, and of course, his numerous anti-Semitic comments from the end of 2022 and beyond. Besides his public image, his last few albums have been regarded as some of his weakest projects due to his lyrical decline, bloated track list, and outright polarizing tracks. As someone who admits that Kanye is their favorite musician, I have come to a somewhat sad but necessary conclusion. I think that Kanye West should retire, and here's why. I feel like anyone with two fully functional ears can clearly tell that Kanye has lyrically fallen off over his last few albums. This is especially evident with his latest project, Vultures, as Kanye isn't really lyrically cohesive throughout a majority of this album. It's mostly just him rambling about sexual-related things and the occasional lazy shock value line. Like comparing yourself to R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, and P. Diddy on the song Carnival is just questionable to me as a means to take a jab at the Me Too movement and to get a reaction from the listeners. For those who have listened to the album, you've definitely heard the lyrical masterpiece that is back to me with lines like, beautiful big titty but naked women just don't fall out the sky, you know. I haven't even mentioned the harmful rhetoric he used on the entirety of the closing track, King, where he claims to still be the king after being labeled as crazy, bipolar, and an anti-Semite. It's just a shame that he wasted such a strong beat and sample on such a derogatory track. To me, it just seems like he isn't that focused when he's in the studio anymore, as he's unfortunately not trying to evolve rap and hip-hop like he used to. Now, I don't have a problem with him rapping about sex because he did that with my favorite album of his, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I just have a problem with the lack of creativity in his lyrics. At least on Dark Twisted Fantasy, he came up with some creative, intriguing, and thought-provoking songs and lyrics. Here, it just seems like he jotted down whatever came to his mind first without looking over it or making sure it actually made sense. Another thing that's rubbed me the wrong way from this album is him proclaiming to be the next Jesus Christ on Carnival. While I'm not a religious person myself, I just feel like it's wrong and offensive to say these types of things, especially considering that Kanye himself is a Christian. There's honestly just a lack of substance all around this album. However, there are still a couple of diamonds in the rough on it, like the intro track Stars, the track Burn, and the second to last track Problematic. In terms of Jesus is King and Donda, I don't really have any standout moments from these albums to point out, but I just don't think they're as lyrically rich as his other albums. It's quite sad how much of a dip Kanye has taken in lyricism since 2018, because I thought Gay was a great album that really shined light on the effect that mental illnesses can have on someone in their family. Kids See Ghosts from that same year with him and Kid Cudi was stellar as well, yet this is just the tip of the iceberg for why I think Kanye should call it quits. So allow me to introduce you to his chaotic and unorganized album rollouts. Over the last 3 years, Kanye has had 3 separate album rollouts, all with their own issues and lack of organization. Starting with Donda, he had the first 2 preview events through Apple Music at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. At the first one, he decided to wear the mask SpongeBob wore in the Secret Box episode and the red puffer that was flying out of stock once it went on sale online. The first event was on July 23rd, 2021, and it was pretty rough. It started with Kanye running on colored people's time and coming out 2 hours late, but the most important thing is that most, if not all, of the songs were unfinished. I mean, he was quite literally working on the album before he came out. The most hilarious thing about all of this is that the album was supposed to release that night.
Stop the cap!
Like, the real Kanye fans knew that shit wasn't coming out that night, and it ultimately didn't. In between events, Kanye reportedly moved into the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in order to finish the album. He was even at an Atlantic United soccer game the day after the first listening event, wearing the same fit. Like, did bro even take a shower? I guess he thought his fit was too fire, so he just had to run it back. He also revealed that the new release date for the album would be August 6th, so I guess we just had to wait 2 more weeks. Shouldn't be too bad. These 2 weeks would go by, and it was time for another listening event. Yet, this time, he started a live stream at like 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time the morning of the event, showing himself and others working on the album. Those in attendance were Chance the Rapper, Steve Lacy, Vivio Foreign, and Vic Mensa. Throughout the stream, Kanye would also work out and even catch some Z's leading up to the show. Once the event was about to start, the camera panned to the stage where objects from Kanye's room were laid out. Eventually, Kanye himself would come out and the show would finally begin. The album was more finished this time around, with the new Kid Cudi feature on the song Moon and more songs being shown off in general. On the last song, No Child Left Behind, Kanye went out with quite the exit as he was elevated to the ceiling of the stadium by a harness, making a reference to ascending to heaven. Overall, this show gave us fans more hope that the album may actually come out that night. 11 p.m. would hit, and you already know what happened. Of course the album didn't drop. This is just a part of the cycle of insanity for Kanye fans in all honesty. However, it wasn't all doom and gloom, as there would be a final listening party that would take place in Kanye's hometown of Chicago at Soldier Field instead on August 27th. Kanye would show up 2 hours late per usual, but at this point the album was basically finished. The big differences with this show's set list were the addition of Marilyn Manson and DaBaby on the song Jail, the removal of Kid Cudi from Moon for some odd reason, a new song that was played titled Come to Life, and Remote Control featuring an extended outro that had the glob meme that got popular years ago. In terms of the aesthetic with this event, there was a replica of Kanye's childhood home in the middle of the field. The most intriguing things to come from the show was Kanye being set on fire during Come to Life, and his ex-wife Kim Kardashian coming out in a wedding dress and walking towards him before the end of the show. Now the real question to ask was, is the album finally coming out? Thankfully, it would release the following Sunday on the 29th, which was a bit unorthodox since albums typically release on Fridays, but I suppose it made sense due to the gospel nature of this album. Yet there would be some controversy behind this release, as Kanye would come out and claim that Universal Music Group released the album without his permission, and that they blocked the Jail Part 2 with DaBaby and Marilyn Manson from being on the album. If these claims are true, I won't blame this on Kanye since record labels do some shady things sometimes. Jail Part 2 would be added to the album shortly after release though, clearing one thing up. But this is just the beginning with these unorganized album rollouts, as Kanye would announce a sequel to Donda on January 27, 2022 that would be executively produced by another popular rapper, Future, and was slated to release on February 22nd, 2022, 2/22/22. Fans were hyped once again, including me, but there was one thing that was pretty worrying about this reveal. There would only be a 6-month gap in between albums, meaning that this album was either going to be A, definitely rushed to some degree, B, was going to get delayed for a while, or C, was just going to get outright canceled. By now, all Kanye fans know what happens when he haphazardly reveals albums. A listening party for the album would soon be announced for the release date and would once again be held at Soldier Field. This would be followed up by a bombshell announcement, as Kanye would reveal that the album would not be on streaming services. Instead, it would be exclusive to his $200 Yeezy stem player. If you don't know what a stem player is, it's a small device that can isolate certain layers of a song. He even claimed to have turned down a $100 million deal from Apple in order to do this. I have several issues with this though, because it seems like a greedy move from Kanye to make his fans purchase a $200 device just to listen to a potentially unfinished album, and it provides a barrier to listen to his music, which should never be a thing. In the past, Kanye mentioned people illegally downloading his 2016 hit album, The Life of Pablo, on the song Saint Pablo by saying, "A million illegally downloaded my truth over the drums." This move would only push people to post the album online elsewhere or download the album illegally. Anyways, February 22nd would come and the listening party would take place, with the album presumably dropping right after. Was the album unfinished? 100%. The 16 tracks that were shown featured some solid production, but the overall lyricism from Kanye and the featured artists just wasn't that good. There were even the classic demo mumbles from Kanye on certain tracks. The fact that they even pushed to have this album finished in less than 6 months is perplexing to me. It just seems like it was a big marketing push for the stem player instead of being a genuine project. Now, I would be lying if I didn't say that there were a few solid tracks on here, or that there were tracks that had potential once they were finished. Tracks like True Love, Sci-Fi, Flowers, and First Time in a Long Time showed that with enough time, care, and polish, this could be a good album. Following the listening event, only 4 of the 16 songs would be released, with the rest coming a few days later. I get that it was only 2 days later, but what's the point of telling your fans, hey, I'm gonna release the album on this day, but instead you drip feed them with 4 unfinished songs on the night of release. On top of this, it seemed like it was gonna get updated here and there with more finished tracks. It's like how video games would come out unfinished and then get fixed over time with patches since they get rushed to release. I hate it in that industry, so why in the world would I like it in this one? I understand the support wanting to make more money for your work as a musician, but the way Kanye went about it just seems egregious to me. This now brings us to him and Ty Dolla $ign's latest albums together, to which the duo was reported to have been working on the album back in June of last year in Japan and Italy. While Vultures Volume 1 had less of a problematic rollout than the previous 2 albums, it still faced a slew of issues. From sample issues to certain artists not wanting to be on the album anymore, Vultures would face multiple delays as it was originally set to release on December 15, 2023. The reason for its first delay was due to the song Everybody not being clear for the duo to interpolate, and because Nicki Minaj denied their use of her verse on a song titled New Body from Kanye's scrapped 2018 album, Yandhi. The album would be pushed to the end of the month, but it was revealed on December 21st that the album will release on January 12, 2024 instead. On the 11th, the album would be pushed back a week to the 19th. I hope y'all are starting to understand what I mean when I say these rollouts are highly unorganized. However, a huge announcement would come on the 16th as Kanye revealed that Vultures was going to have 3 albums, with the first one being delayed once again to February 9th, the second one set to release on March 8th, and the third one set to release on April 5th. As I'm editing the script on April 11th, to no surprise, neither Volume 2 or 3 have come out yet. Honestly, I didn't have too much faith in these projects releasing on time since Vultures Volume 1 got delayed a million times, and we all know Kanye's track record when it comes to releasing albums on time. Vultures 1 would finally release a day after its new release date on the 10th, yet it would face issues staying up on streaming platforms. It didn't even release on Spotify at first, as it was only on Apple Music and Tidal initially. Another controversy would come up as the lead vocalist of Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, would post to social media stating that he did not want Kanye to use a sample of the band's iconic song, Iron Man, due to his anti-Semitic beliefs. What's funny about this whole thing is that Ozzy and his wife Sharon dressed up as Kanye and his wife Bianca Censori for Halloween. While his last few album rollouts have been shaky and his lyricism has definitely taken a step back, I personally believe these issues pale in comparison to his numerous controversies and outbursts over the past few years. Kanye's public image has always been iffy following his infamous onstage interruption of Taylor Swift's Music Video of the Year acceptance at the 2009 VMAs, but has completely taken a nosedive since 2018. It all started with his support of Donald Trump, as he would post himself numerous times donning the Make America Great Again hat that Trump centered his entire campaign around. He also sent out a tweet on April 25, 2018, stating that people don't have to agree with Trump, but that the mob can't make him not love him. He then referred to Trump as his brother and stated that he loves everyone. He closed his tweet by emphasizing that we all have the right to independent thought. The seeds were planted for this in late 2016, as the two were together at Trump Tower in Chicago since Kanye reportedly wanted to take a picture with him. In late 2018, Kanye would take a visit to the White House to meet up with Trump to discuss various issues that he believed to be important to the African American community, with the big one being prison reform. While I don't have too much of an issue with Kanye supporting Trump, these events were for sure controversial due to Trump also having a negative reputation for many things that I won't get into in this video. 2018 just seemed to be Kanye's insanity run when it comes to controversy, as he would appear at the TMZ office in May for an interview that would result in this now infamous clip.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice.
At face value, Kanye just said slavery was a choice. But looking deeper into this, he has been talking about black people being mentally enslaved in his music for years, spanning back to his song from Yeezus, literally titled New Slaves. In the current times where he's talking about mental enslavement, I actually kinda agree with him due to how people will do anything for these big companies and money, yet obviously I still think it was wrong of him to generalize slavery as a choice when those who are genuinely enslaved were forced into it. Thankfully, he had a mostly quiet couple of years from 2019 to 2021, besides his divorce from Kim, as he would transition into becoming a born-again Christian. Yet shit would really start to hit the fan in 2022 as he would begin his anti-Semitic campaign with his DEFCON 3 tweet on October 8th. In the following weeks, he would go on a bigoted tirade on multiple podcasts, including LeBron James and Maverick Carter's The Shop, which would be pulled from airing due to Kanye's comments in this episode. In a statement to the news publication Unscripted, Carter stated that Kanye was booked weeks before the episode was supposed to air, and that he believed that Kanye was capable of a respectful discussion since they talked to each other the day before filming. He then went on to say that Kanye used the shop to reiterate more hate speech and incredibly dangerous stereotypes. Several days prior, on the 3rd of October, Kanye would be seen wearing a White Lives Matter shirt at his Yeezy Season 9 fashion show in Paris. He was even photographed with a friend of his who's another controversial figure, Candace Owens. To be honest, she has her own set of issues that could take its own video to explain. He would also be interviewed by the polarizing news figure Tucker Carlson on the 6th, who was still working at Fox at the time. In this interview, Kanye explained his reasoning behind the White Lives Matter shirt, his thoughts on abortion, as well as his thoughts on political polarization. While I think Kanye made a few valid points in this interview in regards to how black people can be portrayed and discriminated against, the White Lives Matter shirt completely undermines those points. I mean, Kanye used to rap about racism and discrimination in his music, said George Bush doesn't care about black people on national TV during Hurricane Katrina, and was even seen at protests during quarantine in 2020. So it's very odd to see him change his stance on such a pressing issue that affects the group of people he influences the most. On top of this, he would even claim that George Floyd's death was from a fatal dose of fentanyl instead of the neck compression from ex-policeman Derek Chauvin that was confirmed by his autopsy report. The sad thing about this is that Kanye even donated to Floyd's family back in 2020 and set up a 529 education plan to pay for his daughter to go to college when the time comes. In a perfectly reasonable move, Floyd's family made an effort to sue Kanye due to defamation and harassment for $250 million shortly after this. I believe nothing has come of this lawsuit since then, but feel free to correct me in the comments below. Now, I don't want to make it sound like I'm defending Kanye when I say this, but I think his stark change in opinion on both of these matters comes from the influx of negative yes men and women in his life, such as the very controversial Nick Fuentes and the previously mentioned Candace Owens. Kanye is a grown man who is capable of making his own choices, so he should definitely be held responsible for being associated with these people just so he'll have someone who will agree with everything he says and does. Yet I feel like the climax of his self-destructive 2022 campaign was his appearance on the Alex Jones show, which will live with him for the rest of his life. During this appearance, Kanye made one of the most detrimental statements anyone, let alone a person of his status, could make. It only took 3 words. He admitted his fascination with the man who headed the fascist party in Germany during World War II, whose name I won't say in case it gets this video demonetized. I shouldn't have to explain why this is a terrible thing to do since his actions affected millions of people and have been taught in history classes all over the world. The man even had Alex Jones sweating, which is something that has probably never happened before. While all of this was going on, Kanye had multiple high-level athletes under his sports agency, Donda Sports, leave due to these comments. This included players such as Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics and Aaron Donald from the Los Angeles Rams. Yet the biggest blow Kanye would take was to his pockets, as most, if not all of the companies he was working with would stop working with him, with the heavy hitters being Adidas and Gap. This means that he would no longer have any control over his extremely lucrative Yeezy shoe brand. It was reported that Kanye lost over $600 million as a result of this fiasco, bringing his previous $1 billion net worth down to a measly $400 million. I guess his $53 million debt from 2016 is pretty paltry in comparison. The most hilarious thing about this is that Kanye said sometime before on his deleted Drink Champs appearance that he could say these anti-Semitic things without Adidas dropping him. It's easy to say now that this statement aged like milk. Even with the connection being cut, Adidas continues to sell Yeezys since they still bring in hella cash. Since then, Kanye did go pretty silent for some months, but would continue with smaller outbursts once he returned. At the end of December 2023, he would make an attempt to apologize for his anti-Semitic remarks over on Instagram in a since deleted post that was typed out in Hebrew. The message reads, "I sincerely apologize to the Jewish community for my unplanned outbursts caused by my words or actions. It was not my intention to hurt or disrespect, and I deeply regret any pain I may have caused. I'm committed to starting with myself and learning from this experience to ensure greater sensitivity and understanding in the future. Your forgiveness is important to me, and I'm committed to making amends and promoting unity." Shortly after this apology, he will release new clothes, prompting people to believe that this was just the means to increase his sales rather than his sincerity. The biggest thing that came out recently was another lawsuit filed against him, this time from a former employee who claimed that Kanye would treat his black employees far worse than his white ones, and that Kanye would often spew hate speech towards Jewish people. Furthermore, Kanye allegedly threatened to come after the LGBTQ+ community next, and would even vulgarly lash out against employees in front of children and their parents at his school, Donda Academy. I just can't seem to understand who let Kanye West, out of all people, make a school. Like, I know you can do whatever with the money he has, but come on, y'all. The man is clearly not capable and responsible enough for an endeavor like that. The one thing that some of his fans will use to defend his actions is his bipolarism. Yet I don't believe that's a valid justification for any of these actions. There are millions of people around the world who deal with this disorder that do not publicly lash out and go on hateful barrages like Kanye does. Anyone with 2 brain cells shouldn't think that Kanye just rolled out of bed one day and decided to be an anti-Semite. This had to have been something that was cooking in his mind for several years up until this point. Obviously, Kanye has definitely done other harmful things to his image over these past 6 years, but it would take an HBO documentary to cover everything. At this point, I think it's best that I provide my own personal and unscripted rant about the man who I once looked up to. I just want to start this rant off with explaining why I'm so disappointed in Kanye. It's mostly because he has done so much for the music industry and the fashion industry over these last 20 years. And to see him just break this all down in the span of a year, or in the span of 6 years, is just sad to me. You know, it puts it into perspective how you can make one decision that can really just ruin everything you worked for. And he's worked for a lot. I mean, he was looked down upon as a producer in his early days, came up as a rapper after everyone was hating on him, didn't think he could be a good rapper, and then he proved everyone wrong by being one of the most lucrative rappers in history. And to go from that to being very hateful, very anti-Semitic, racist, stuff like this, it's just sad. It's just disheartening, in all honesty. And he's honestly inspired me and a lot of people with his music and with his fashion and with his mindset to keep going, to prove everyone wrong, you know. And it's gotten to the point now where I find it harder than ever to listen to his music, mostly his newer music. Like, I can still go back and listen to his older music and just be like, oh yeah, like he didn't have the same mindset at this point, but I don't know him, you know, maybe he did and he's just hiding it. So I don't know, it's kind of sad seeing the trajectory he's on, and I honestly don't think he'll ever find his way out of this downward spiral. And another thing that can add on to this is how it could affect his family. You know, I think it's a good thing that him and Kim divorced, because Kim didn't want to be, you know, brought down by him, and I understand she didn't want their kids to be brought down by him, and I understand that. And let's just say hypothetically that Northwest makes music in the future, because she had like her little song Talking on Vultures. Let's say she makes music in the future, right? If North makes music in the future and she has any ideas similar to Kanye's, she's immediately blackballed. She's not going to be able to do anything. So I think he's kind of set up his family in a way. He's got to put his family in a bad position, and I don't know, it's sad. And another thing about him is how he'll talk about, like, or at least in 2018 on Ye, he was talking about like how he didn't want his daughter to be over-sexualized, stuff like that, which is 100% reasonable. I agree with him. But to have your wife on Instagram and all these other platforms just kind of like damn near butt naked, right? Just like she barely got clothes on, just out in public, and you don't want your daughter to be like that. You shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't publicize your wife being outside like that. I mean, obviously his wife, I can't do anything about it, but I just think he's kind of a hypocrite when it comes to that. But yeah, honestly, I think nowadays, I think Kanye's a cooked product. Now, if he drops Vultures Volume 2 and 3 and they're bangers, I'll be like, all right. And if there's no anti-Semitic rhetoric or any harmful rhetoric in those albums, it's just straight music, it's straight bangers, I'll be like, all right, you know, he still kind of got it. I still think he definitely has it in terms of production, but in terms of rapping, the man is cooked. Let's be honest, y'all. Like, no glazing, no anything. He's a cooked product now. So if he just drops Vultures Volume 2 and 3 with no hate, and he actually moves towards wanting to, you know, be united with everyone, wanting to be actual, you know, a positive figure in the music community again, then I'll be fine with it. You know, I won't have any problems against him if he actually wants to right his wrongs. But until then, I just don't think there's a place for him in the rap game anymore because of how he's been presenting himself. You know, it just makes me sad, in all honesty, as a fan of his, because I still find him to be my GOAT musician, but person, hell no. Like, I obviously understand that he is not a good person in his current state, but yeah, that's basically all I gotta say in terms of this rant. I'm just yapping at this point. While Kanye West was once the hero the conscious rap scene needed, it's clear now that he's lived long enough to see himself become the villain. But if you're new to the channel and want to learn more about other popular artists, go check out the Ultimate Paramore Iceberg that's on screen now.